as America sweeps in and capture Nicolas Maduro. Everybody's in mixed feeling. Europe is saying they are disappointed. A lot of nations are pointing fingers and some are picking sides. But it's not over. Even though the airstrike is over, everything is just the beginning and it's all connected. It's all connected. Greenland, Panama, Canada, and your wallet too. And here's why. It's a big setup and enough people do not get the big picture. The headliners move on. Madura pressures are done, but the real story it's just starting. What happened in Venezuela isn't isolated. It's a piece of a strategy puzzle many analysts are missing the point. And these events, Greenland, Panama, the Panama Canal, Canada, Venezuela, aren't separated. They are all connected by one logic, and that most news outlets aren't talking about. Whether you call it national security, economy, strategy, or financial positioning, the mechanic behind it move the same way, and these are the same: control resources, control trade routes, control pricing systems, deny competitors access, like denying China to sneak into America's backyard and log on to its energy source, or even trying to claim Venezuela oil. It's about reshaping the Western Hemisphere, not just politically, but strategically. And I'm going to outline three things that really matters. Here's what actually matters right now: oil reserve, who control it, currency systems, and how energy is priced, like how your oil is priced, or your gas is priced, you know, stuff like that. China is expanding its footprint in the region, and the US considers strategy. Let's unpack this strategy. China has grown so big in Latin America. Venezuela didn't happen in isolation. It's a move in a larger continental economic context. For 20 years, China has been building economic ties across Latin America. In 2024 alone, China roughly trades it about $518 billion, growing nearly 30% each year. For 20 years ago, China accounted for less than 2% of Latin America exports during about trades. Now in South America, the largest trading partner, bigger than the United States, is Brazil, Peru, and Chile. Those are doing more trade than what they would trade with America, what they would export or even import from America. There are massive trade that's going on with China right now. 22 out of 33 Latin American countries, including the Caribbean nations like Jamaica, has joined China Belt and Road Initiative. And that's not just trade, that's infrastructure control, like roads, buildings, ports, and many more. For example, a lot of people don't know that China owns majority of the ports in Peru, Brazil, Panama, and Ecuador. For example, the port of Chanque in Peru, designed to export to Asia without touching US logistics. So when we hear about Venezuela, understand this: the US is watching, and the US sees China making a big economic influence. And China don't want the economy to switch towards Beijing. So America is sweeping in to give its input and to take over, because it is happening in America's backyard. The Caribbean is America's backyard. Venezuela is America's backyard. And this isn't abstract. It's ports, railroad, energy contracts, payments, trade road, etc. So what is America's strategic response? The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, focus is Latin America, and his strategic goal reassures US economy leverage without deploying full military occupation. Venezuela was a signal, a message that if countries move too far into China's orbit, they would threaten the dollar base and pricing system and become a node in Beijing supply chain, and there are consequences for doing that. So what will America do? America will influence regime change that rebalance the market and force people to waver back to America. Venezuela, oil really matters. Oil and the dollar. Here's where it's get technical but important. Venezuela has collapsed oil production from over 3 million barrels a day to under 1 million. But that's not the point. It's not about how much oil Venezuela produces per day. It's about what Venezuela represents. It has the largest oil reserve on earth, roughly 300 billion barrels. For 50 years, global oil has been priced in US dollar, the petrodollar system. Everyone buys their oil with this system. But a lot of country needs the US dollar, and that creates automatic demand for US currency, which lowers borrowing costs and keeps interest rates favorable for USA. But that system is fracturing. Saudi Arabia didn't renew its exclusive dollar pricing. BRICS nations are settling energy trades in local currency, like China in the China yuan. Venezuela, according to multiple reports, was preparing to price its oil in a basket of currencies led by the Chinese yuan and settling those contracts through China cross-border payment system. If that happened, China would need dollar to buy Venezuela oil, causing less demand for US dollar and putting downward pressure on its value. And that's the real threat, not about how many barrels they are pumped every day. Okay? Not how many barrels are pumped. The US response in plain view is this. Now listen closely. At a press conference, Trump said oil companies would go in, rebuild infrastructure, extract wealth and the oil, and would flow to the US and its allies. The next day, Mark Rubio walked back and said it's not about resources, it's about governance. That's contradict everything what Trump said. So, the US doesn't need Venezuela oil today. That's what Mark Rubio said, right? But it needs control of it. Controlling oil prices, keep it in dollars, prevent alternative systems from taking oil. This isn't about liberation. It's about locking Venezuela back into dollar financial framework, positioning America for what's to come. So if China want to sneak into American backyard, they cannot do it, okay? They cannot do it because it's all about the strategic hemisphere of the political theater. Not just policies, but strategies. Not just deploying military, even if they don't want to deploy military, but they are going to use a strategic pattern, and many people are not following this pattern. So now America will expand. They will put pressure on Canada over trade, focus on Greenland for their mineral resources, renew emphasis on the Panama Canal, and direct intervention in Venezuela. These moves share one logic: secure your backyard, control critical supply, deny rival access to strategic resource, like denying China to sneak into America's backyard and do whatsoever they please, and to get a deal with Venezuela to get their oils, build up their oil rigs, and pump many barrels. Also, this goes for Russia. It's all about ensuring reliable energy, protecting shipping lanes, and keep your rivals from gaining depth. Venezuela fit that calculus. And this is what many people don't know. What is going on? They don't know. So people will say this and they will say that. But what does this mean going forward? So what does this mean for market prices and global positioning? In the short term, Venezuela, low production doesn't shock oil prices. There's spare capacity elsewhere, but market react to expectation. If US companies rebuild Venezuela output, that becomes long-term supply, prices in dollar. That changes market psychology. This is economic positioning, financial system, infrastructure access, not just politics. So next time you see a news headline about Venezuela, remember this wasn't just about Maduro. It was about resource pricing, system control, and global positioning. The economic contest for South America isn't background noise anymore. It's front and center, and that's the ultimate story. It's all about strategy and it's all about price. It is all about control and how the global market work and change the global market psychologically. This is America framework. The, this is economic positioning.